On tonight's programme, the pet owners worried about finding help for their sick animals as Wales faces a shortage of vets.
I went through all of the directory online to see what vets were available in Nice, and they were all closed, and I was running out of choices.
Also on the programme, we speak to the Welsh firefighter helping battle deadly wildfires in Greece as flames destroy parts of the country. And it's the sport that made its debut in the Tokyo Olympics, and now skateboarding is seeing a surge in popularity here. Good evening, I'm Ellie Pitt. A vet has told this programme that their industry is in crisis and thousands of families in Wales could soon struggle to get help for their sick pets. The pandemic sparked a surge in people buying animals, particularly dogs. This sudden spike, combined with fewer vets arriving from the EU due to Brexit and travel restrictions, means practices are at full capacity, forcing families to travel long distances for essential health checks or vaccinations. Our reporter Katie Fenton has been finding out more.
Go fetch. Good girl. Well done.
Meet Willow, the newest member of the Einan family. She's a bundle of joy, but trying to find a vet to give her vital vaccinations has been far from joyous.
I went through all of the directory online to see what vets were available in Nice, and they were all closed. They spread out to Merthyr, Brecon, Swansea, Clydach, Port Talbot, and I was running out of choices. I was panicking because of the need for Willow to have had the second injection. She couldn't be socialised without it. She would be stuck in this garden, and even now this really isn't quite stimulating enough.
Did you consider not getting her?
I actually got to Thursday and I just thought, I've just got to give her up.
Diane eventually found a vet in Carmarthen, but will have to travel more than 40 miles every time Willow needs treatment. It's the reality faced by many pet owners as practices reach maximum capacity.
Got 11:15.
This vet's surgery in Swansea may not look very busy, but don't let that fool you. During lockdown, the number of people searching for puppies online rose by 6 times, and a lack of staff means vets are struggling to meet that rising demand.
We do have more clients ringing on a daily basis asking us for appointments, but unfortunately we had to make the hard decision that we weren't going to take any more clients on. We have had members of staff in tears when they've had an abusive phone call, when somebody demands to be seen, and they're trying to explain to the best of their ability why we can't see them straight away.
A vet shortage in the UK has traditionally been filled by EU locums, but they've become scarce in recent months.
Obviously because of the uncertainty around Brexit as to whether the European vets would be welcome to come and work or whether they'd have to have more paperwork involved. I think a lot of the European locums decided not to come over. And then shortly after Brexit, the COVID pandemic emerged, which just was a double whammy.
Now, where there would normally be 3 vets working here, Lisa is the only one left. It means they've had to pay a vet in Greece more than £5,000 to cover Lisa while she takes a break, something she desperately needs.
I've been taking a nap at lunchtime because I'm just so tired. It just takes its toll over time. I've been doing this now for over 7-8 months, and it's getting harder and harder every day.
What would you say to pet owners who perhaps don't understand the pressure that you're under?
Just be kind to the people on the end of the phone. They're trying their best. Maybe try and ring around before you consider getting a pet to see that you can find a vet that will take you in your area.
It's a message Diane wishes she'd heard sooner.
If I'd been aware, I wouldn't have gone ahead with actually looking for a puppy now. It's just a case of trying further afield each time. If you really want to go ahead, other than that, cancel.
Well, Katie's here to talk about this in a bit more detail. And Katie, more than half of households in Wales have a pet, so there might be plenty of people watching this experiencing the same thing. Why is Wales so reliant on overseas vets?
Well, you heard in my report how COVID and Brexit are causing that big shortfall in overseas vets, but vets have told me that new graduates here are actually reluctant to enter the industry because of that extra pressure and the longer hours that they're facing at the moment. On top of that, they say there simply aren't enough vets being trained in Wales or the rest of the UK. And the British Veterinary Association says more school places could be a solution to that.
There's no quick fix. More veterinary school places are required, and this is already in the pipeline with the Welsh School at Aberystwyth opening up in September. But also, we traditionally imported a lot of vets from within Europe and other countries, and currently the visa requirements are proving very, very problematic for those trying to bring people in to this country.
Now, that university Colin mentioned in Aberystwyth is the only one and the first one in Wales to open a school of veterinary science. They'll be welcoming their first students in September, but of course they will take years to become fully qualified. So in the meantime, vets like the one in Swansea desperately need those overseas vets to come back and help them meet that demand. The UK government has added vets to a shortage occupation list, which it says will make it easier for employers to recruit those overseas vets. And it also says that 2 new schools have opened in England as well. But of course, as Colin said, none of these are quick fixes. So until then, pet owners are being urged to check with their vets that they can actually register before buying or adopting.
Katie Fenton for that story. Thank you very much. Elsewhere tonight, a firefighter who travelled to Greece to help battle the deadly wildfires ravaging the country has described the conditions as extreme. Craig Hope from South Wales Fire and Rescue is part of a 21-strong team sent to support local services. Vast swathes of forest and homes have been destroyed, with more than 1,000 people having to be rescued by sea. It follows the country's worst heatwave in decades. Mike Griffiths has more.
Facing down the fires that have destroyed so much. Tackling them is now an international effort. On the front line, expert firefighters from South Wales.
There's a lot of devastation, a lot of property damaged, and a lot of forestry's been burnt. People are very upset, but the welcome we've had from the locals has been fantastic, and that's the same for all the international help that's here. And now we're all working together to try and solve this problem. The fire service are very overstretched. There's a lot of fires, it's very hot, very windy, and they're overwhelmed, so that's where we've come in to help. There's 4 firefighters from Wales, including myself, plus there's firefighters from Merseyside, Lancashire, London Fire Brigade and West Mids.
South Wales Fire and Rescue Service is recognised for its expertise in battling grass fires. It's these very skills they're putting to use.
We spent a lot of time in 2018 on Cwmcarn Forestry, and some of the fires activity we've seen is very similar. It's a much bigger area, but the fire behaviour is very similar. So we are used to these conditions and we know how to deal with these fires. What we have been doing is going in after the fire has passed through an area. We go in with hand tools, with chainsaws, we're opening roads, we're digging out hot spots. So when the weather changes throughout the day, the fires are not reigniting. And that means the fire engines then can go back into the communities to protect the communities. It's extremely arduous work, but we are working safely and we're getting it done.
The cost to people and property is already huge. The environmental damage possibly even bigger. Mike Griffiths, ITV News.
To the rest of the day's news now, and DVLA workers will be asked if they would support more strikes in an ongoing dispute over COVID-related safety. Members of the Public and Commercial Services Union have previously walked out of the head office in Swansea. The DVLA insists it has put measures in place to keep staff safe. Investigations are continuing after 2 people needed to be taken to hospital when an open-top bus crashed into a tree in Swansea. The incident happened on the Mumbles Road yesterday afternoon, and one of those injured was airlifted to hospital. South Wales Police said none of the injuries are believed to be life-threatening. The meat from lambs raised on salt marshes on Gower has joined the likes of champagne and Cornish pasties, earning itself special legal protection. It's the first product in Wales to be awarded UK geographical indication status since leaving the EU. It means Gower salt marsh lamb is protected from being copied. But as our national correspondent Rob Osborne has been finding out, there are challenges ahead for the new scheme.
These are the salt marshes of Gower. It's where those sheep in the distance spend their days grazing. The lamb produced here is so unique it has been given special status, joining other Welsh foods like Caerphilly cheese and Anglesey sea salt.
This recognition, what does that mean to you?
It's going to be massive, I think. Yeah, it's a great recognition for our product and its quality and authenticity. It could be huge for us in the future.
What's so special about this lamb to other Welsh lamb?
This lamb grazes out on the Marsh for over half the lamb's life. The Marsh is a wonderful place. It's got different grasses that grow there, different herbs, and the lambs and the sheep will feast on these when they're down there. That will then eventually go into the meat and just give a truly special flavour.
News of the lamb's new status quickly spread through the Gower. Holidaymakers disrupted their plans to get their hands on some. The lamb is the first product to be entered in the new UK government scheme. But we have been here before. This new scheme replaces an older one that Britain was part of in the European Union. The difference is, this scheme is only recognised on Great Britain. That means Wales, Scotland and England. It doesn't apply to Northern Ireland, let alone the rest of the EU. So, is it really as good as the government makes out?
It might be factual in terms of, some lawyer's interpretation, but from the point of view of consumers, absolutely it isn't factual, because people will be able to, when they're making their shopping choices, making their buying choices, will be able to see these brands.
The wider agricultural community in Wales are keen to see the special status of these foods protected in any future negotiations on trade with America or Australia.
Animal welfare is important for us. The environment's very important for us here in Wales, so it's absolutely vital that we do get these things included in future trade deals and that they are protected.
Some say there should be no special status for any foods at all, but Will's just pleased he's got it for his lamb. Recognition of a fine Welsh product. Rob Osborne, ITV News.
The community of Ystrad Gynllais are trying to raise £100,000 to save their local playing fields. It comes as the 100-year lease between Powys Council and the landowners comes to an end. Volunteers have managed to negotiate a new lease deal with the owners but need to pay the full sum up front. The council are unable to help due to cutbacks, so fundraising is their only hope. Alexandra Hartley is in Ystrad Gynllais for us tonight. Alex, what's the latest?
Well, Ellie, we all know that open spaces like this are so vital, often a lifeline to communities, especially over the last few years. And here in Ystrad Gynllais, it is no different. They've been using this facility for decades. You can see some children playing rugby out here. They play football here, cricket, tennis, and so much more. The land has now come up. The lease has now expired. So it's now down to the local community to fight to save it. And I'm joined inside, because it's a bit wet and miserable out here, by one of the volunteers who is hoping to keep this facility as it is. Wayne Thomas, thanks very much for joining us. Wayne, can you just put into words first what this facility means to you as a community?
I think this facility means so much to so many people in so many different ways, For me personally, when I drive on, I look at the history of it, look at the present structure of it, and indeed we are now looking at the future structure. It's been a major part of Ystrad Gynllais in so many ways. It's the green lung at the heart of the centre of the village, if you like, and it's, like I've said, we've got to secure it for so many different reasons. The support we've had so far has been fabulous.
And tell me a bit about the deal you've got.
It's taken us just over 3 years to negotiate the deal where we are. Of course, long-term leases, 99-year, 100-year leases are no longer relevant. 25-year lease is where we started. We've ended with a 50-year lease, of course, and the price of that is the £100,000. We did have 3 years to pay that, to raise that monies. Unfortunately, because of COVID and the curtailment of social activity, we've got 2 years to raise that money, of course.
It's a steep amount, £100,000 to pay up front. Is that fair, do you think? And is there any support from the council or the landowners?
There's a few things, of course. We think it's a reasonable deal, and the family, the Gough family, of course, they think so as well. And in fairness, if you look at comparable areas of land, it's a reasonable rate to pay for the area of land we've got. With the Powys County Council, we explored those discussions with the local authority. It was clear the lease came to an end. They had no legal need to continue with it, therefore they terminated it. They have been doing these lands for many, many years, of course, and the cost is several £1,000s per year. They told us outright they are no longer continuing with it, and that was the end of that debate. We then moved to the Gough family and asked for if we could buy the land, secure a mortgage, get the land, etc. In fairness, they said they weren't interested in selling the land at all, which is fair enough. So this is where we ended up now with £2,000 per annum rent for the 50-year term, which is a lifelong term.
Well, good luck in raising that funds. I know you've got a bit of celebrity support behind you as well, with Michael Sheen beating the drum for the local community. You can hear what this space means to the community here. Thankfully, they have got a bit of time to raise those funds. The final deadline for that payment is 2023.
Alex in Ystrad, thank you very much tonight. Still to come on the programme, Wrexham rolls out the red carpet. Why emergency workers were given a sneak preview of the latest blockbuster thanks to one Hollywood star.
And the young Olympian for Team GB that's inspired people right here in Cardiff to pick up skateboarding. But will it be the right weather for hitting the half pipe?
But first tonight, we've seen thousands of A-level students up and down the country receive their hard-earned results. It was a record year with A's and A stars making up nearly half of all grades. Among those celebrating was 18-year-old Georgina from Cardiff, one of the class of COVID who overcame challenges to achieve huge success. Sean Jenkins went to meet her.
Yesterday, there were smiles on the faces of thousands of A-level students across Wales. Hello. One of which was former Welsh competitive swimmer Georgina Withers-Bulch. But her journey to exam success meant sacrificing her dream of becoming an Olympic swimmer when she was forced to quit the sport after being diagnosed with a chlorine allergy.
It wouldn't take much high-intensity swimming for my airways to tighten and I'd struggle to breathe. It was a big change that I had to make. It was something that I'd always known, having swam competitively since I was 8 and having it been my life. But I think mostly I knew that it was the beginning of a new chapter and that I could focus on school from that point onwards.
And that renewed focus led to Georgina achieving 4 A stars yesterday, and she now has her sights set on London, where she'll study law at UCL.
I think it's a mixture of all good emotions, so relief that all the hard work has paid off and that I didn't sacrifice my career on swimming for nothing, and also that I didn't waste all the countless hours that I know I've put in terms of hard work, and also proud of myself, proud of my friends, knowing that we have managed to succeed in such unprecedented times.
So it's out of the competitive pool and onto the criminal bar for Georgina.
It wasn't something that I could turn my back away from forever. I knew that if I really desired to, I could go back. But I think the long-term aim is to become a barrister.
How do you feel about that?
Super excited. Everyone I've spoken to keeps saying, you'll love London. So I'll take their word for it, but I'll find out soon.
Sean Jenkins, ITV News.
Let's take a look at some of the sports headlines now.
For the love of the game. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sports Reports.
And in football, Swansea City recorded their first win under new manager Russell Martin last night. The Swans put 3 goals past Reading on their way to the EFL Cup second round. Strikes from Joel Latibodiere, Ben Cabango and Joel Pirro sealing a comfortable result for the away side. Meanwhile, Cardiff City survived an EFL Cup scare at home to Sutton United. Debutant Marley Watkins scored twice after the away side had taken a shock early lead. Josh Murphy added the third late into the second half. You're watching Wales at 6. A reminder of our top story. A vet has told this programme that their industry is in crisis and thousands of families in Wales could soon struggle to get help for their sick pets. The pandemic sparked a surge in people buying animals, and with fewer vets arriving from the EU, practices are at full capacity. Still to come before 7.
Coming up, a British man's been arrested in Germany, accused of spying for Russia. He works at the British Embassy in Berlin and is suspected of selling top-secret documents. We'll have the latest. Also ahead, the terrible waste of perfectly good food, why thousands of tonnes are thrown away instead of donated. Plus, a passionate Parisian welcome for the world's best paid footballer. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
But back in Wales, the red carpet was rolled out last night for charity and emergency workers in Wrexham, who were treated to a premiere of Ryan Reynolds' new film. The Hollywood star bought the local football club with his fellow actor and friend Rob McElhenney earlier this year. The pair arranged the screening to thank workers for their efforts throughout the pandemic, as Ian Lang now reports.
A big thank you from the Hollywood star. Last night, these charity and frontline workers in Wrexham were treated to a private screening of Ryan Reynolds' new science fiction comedy set within a fictional video game. Not so long ago, such an event itself would have been dismissed as pure fantasy, but after Reynolds' purchase of the club with fellow A-lister Rob McElhenney, he saw it as a way of reaching out to a community he hasn't been able to visit yet.
I think it's genuinely the least I could do. I mean, I'm mortified that I haven't been able to get to Wrexham because of obvious restrictions with travel right now and all throughout the last year. But so anytime I can kind of reach out to the community of Wrexham and do something, I'm happy to do it. I'm incredibly excited about this project that I have with Rob McElhenney, which is, I wouldn't really call it a project. It's an endeavor. It's all kinds of things. I don't want to minimize it. It's our work in Wrexham has as much to do with the football club as it does the community.
The special event was an invite only for frontline emergency workers and charities including Nightingale House Hospice and Blood Bikes. It was a way of thanking them for the dedication they'd shown during the pandemic. And what did they think of it all?
I feel really, really honoured at this time to be here tonight.
It's really exciting, really, to think that a Hollywood star would want to have a premiere in Wrexham town centre. It's amazing, really.
As for the star, well, he said he'd been delighted at how the community had reacted to the takeover of the club and the ambitions they'd outlined.
We're really excited about how much the community has embraced this season's club, but this isn't anything new. I mean, the supporters in Wrexham have embraced this club forever. I mean, it's one of the oldest football clubs on earth. It plays at the oldest football club in the world. So I don't think it's anything new. I think it's something we've perhaps helped stoke something that was already there. And that's exciting. But yeah, the shirts are certainly a lot of the merchandise, like the shirts, have all been sold out. We're trying to make as many as we can to get them in the hands of people who want them. But I guess that's sort of a uptown problem.
The film itself goes on release in the next few days, but proves that when you have Hollywood A-listers in charge of your football club, you can get ahead of the game. Ian Lang, ITV News.
Now, for many, one of the highlights of the Tokyo Olympics was watching 13-year-old Sky Brown become Britain's youngest Olympic medalist. Sky claimed the title after winning bronze in the women's skateboarding event. It's the first time the sport has featured at the Games, and the owners of one skate park in Cardiff say they've seen a huge increase in people looking to try it out. Well, to find out more, we've sent Kelsey there for us this evening. Kelsey, how are your tricks coming along?
Not very good, Ellie, I have to be honest with you. In fact, I did try skateboarding when I was a kid. I have to be honest, I spent more time on the floor than I did on the actual skateboard itself. So for now, I'm going to leave it to the professionals. But yes, I am at Spit and Sawdust in Cardiff, where they say they've been inundated with calls from people who've really been inspired by not just seeing Sky take part in the Olympics, but the fact that skateboarding as a sport itself has been recognised. And I'm pleased to say that I'm joined now by Christian, who is the director and runs Spit and Sawdust, and also Lee Dayton from Dirty Sanchez as well. Thank you both for joining us. And first of all, I have to start off. I mean, tell me about how so many people have been inspired that they've just been calling, wanting to come skateboarding here.
Yeah, I mean, skateboarding's been on the, sort of popularity-wise, it's been on the increase for quite a few months now, but Sky Brown's involvement in the Olympics just completely booted it into the stratosphere. We've had like one-to-one inquiries going through the roof, and we do our education sessions, which are twice weekly. They're fully booked now for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
And Lee, how does it feel, that the Olympics has finally shone a bit of a spotlight on skateboarding, the first year that they've ever done that?
I think it's great for skateboarding, just to show like where it's at now, and it's not just like a fad that back in the day people were like into something and the mainstream just didn't know quite what it was, but now your mums, your dads, your granddads, they all know that skateboarding's much more than just sidewalk surfing.
Definitely. And what's it like to be, with the skateboarding community and things like that? It seems like a real, team effort. People are just there supporting each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with skateboarding, you'll never ever lose the sort of camaraderie, the aspect of going down the curves with your mates. It's just like, that's why there's so much sort of compassion when it comes to the Olympics. Everyone's just out looking after each other, and that's how skateboarding is. It's not your typical sport. It's more like a social activity, really.
We've actually got some footage here of Sam Pulley, who is a professional skateboarder, filming on the ramp behind us earlier, which is amazing. I mean, Lee, how does it feel to watch, these professional skateboarders and to take part yourself as well?
I mean, for me, it's everything, it's just the best feeling. And do you mean on TV? Do you mean watching it on TV, or just to be a part of it?
Well,
I mean, it's insane. For me, I grew up in Pontypool, up in the valley, so to speak, and from where it was then to where it is now, you can just watch it on mainstream TV. It's crazy.
Well, both, thank you so much for that, and I'm pleased to say that it's nice to hear that so many people have been inspired by Sky and in fact the Olympics, and that you've had so many people coming here and be interested in this. Well, I can tell you now that you can probably see the rain is starting to come down a little bit at the moment, and we do have some pretty changeable conditions to come over the next few days, so let's see if we have the right weather conditions for hitting those half pipes. Let's take a look at the forecast.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Cymru Wales weather.
So let's start off then by taking a look at the pressure sequence to get a bit more of an idea as to how our weather story is shaping up. So we have had some frontal systems tracking their way eastwards across. As you can probably see as we head on through the next 24 hours, they will have long gone by the time we head on to the early hours of the morning. So that's taken the cloud and rain with it. So it is going to be an improving picture, but low pressure is still very much dominating our weather story. In fact, there is quite a bit of uncertainty as we head on towards the weekend as to what that will look like, but we'll know more about that over the next few days. But as far as this evening is concerned anyway, yes, it has been a rather grey, damp and miserable day for many of us. Unfortunately, that will continue this evening, but as I mentioned, an improving picture, because once those frontal systems start to track their way eastwards, start to clear away from us, you'll start to see a change overnight tonight. So things are starting to dry up. We'll also see plenty of clear skies developing. Now, under these clear skies, we could see a few mist and fog patches, and particularly in some more rural sheltered spots, particularly in the valleys, we could see these be rather dense in some spots. But overnight tonight, it is going to be a pretty cool night to come. So we've got overnight lows on that map of 8 degrees Celsius. In some sheltered spots, we could even get down to around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, so much cooler than what we've had recently. Now, as you wake first thing tomorrow morning, then yes, we are going to have some mist and fog patches, but they will soon start to lift and burn away pretty quickly. And in fact, tomorrow's shaping up to be a pretty beautiful day out there. You can see on the map, not quite wall-to-wall sunshine. We are going to see the odd bit of patchy cloud at times, but still it shouldn't be too much to spoil that sunshine. So we should see some bright blue skies, and the temperatures really responding to that as well. So we're looking at a rather beautiful day to come with highs of around 20, possibly even 21 degrees Celsius.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Cymru Wales weather.
Well, the rain is starting to come down a little bit here. We've got a bit of drizzle at the moment anyway, but that's not putting people off. We've still got more people queuing to get up onto these ramps here. So for now, I'm going to leave it to the professionals. I'm not actually going to take part myself.
Fair enough. Thanks very much, Kelsey. I hope it stays dry for you there and going into the weekend too. Well, that's all we have time for this evening. I'll be back with your next update after news at 10. Until then, bye-bye.